The Grand Council chamber of the United Galactic Species was, as usual, a cacophony of tentacles, appendages, and extraneous body parts flailing in various expressions of disagreement. High Chancellor Zorn, a gelatinous blob with 17 eye stalks, oozed impatiently on his hovering platform. Order. I will have order in this council. His voice translator boomed across the chamber, causing several crystalline delegates to vibrate uncomfortably. We have a new primitive species report from Sector 7G. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a blue and green marble floating in space. Ah yes, the dirt ball, sniffed Ambassador Krell, whose species evolved from something resembling a cross between a peacock and a calculator. What do they call it? Dirt? Mud? Something appropriately primitive. Earth, corrected Junior Science Officer Plex, a nervous six-legged feline whose job was to remember facts that superior officers couldn't be bothered with. The dominant species call themselves humans. Humans? Cackled Representative Dorn, whose razor-sharp exoskeleton clicked when he laughed. What kind of name is that? Sounds like a respiratory disease. The council erupted in what passed for laughter across 17 different biological configurations. Our initial scans indicate no significant threat potential, continued Plex, scrolling through data on his tablet. They're still using combustion technology, haven't mastered faster than light travel, and spend approximately 60% of their communications bandwidth on videos of juvenile felines. Predictable, sighed High Chancellor Zorn. Another species that will take millennia to reach meaningful development. File them under check back in 500 years, and let's move on to. Sir, interrupted Plex, his ears twitching nervously. There's something unusual in the energy readings from their planet. Unusual how? Asked Ambassador Krell, suddenly interested. Well, sir, there are energy signatures that don't match their apparent technological level. Brief bursts of something that looks almost like dark matter manipulation. An uncomfortable silence fell over the council chamber. Impossible, declared Zorn. Dark matter manipulation is beyond even our full understanding. These humans are still arguing about whether their planet is flat. Only a statistically insignificant portion of their population believes that, Sir, Plex noted. Regardless, Zorn's eye stalks waved dismissively. These readings are clearly an anomaly. Probably just their sun doing something peculiar. Mark them for standard observation, lowest priority. The motion was carried unanimously, with only Plex looking concerned as he filed the report. The council moved on to debating the appropriate taxation of quantum banana imports, completely unaware that they had just made possibly the greatest bureaucratic mistake in galactic history. 6 months later, Admiral Vrax still strode confidently down the corridor of the Council's premier surveillance vessel, the Discreet Observer. At 12 miles long and plated with light-bending metamaterials, it was completely invisible to primitive species detection methods. Or so the brochure claimed. Status report, barked Vrax till to the bridge crew. With 6 arms, 4 eyes, and a carapace that had been polished to a military shine, Vrax Till was the living embodiment of Council security smugness. We're in standard orbit around the primitive planet Earth, sir, reported Navigator Quicks. Our cloaking systems are fully operational. These humans have absolutely no idea we're here. Excellent, Vrax Till smiled, revealing 3 rows of teeth that had been cosmetically sharpened for intimidation purposes. Let's run the standard observation protocol. Collect some specimens, analyze their defense capabilities, and be back in time for the Council's annual diplomatic gala. I hear they're serving gaseous lobster this year. Sir, called out Sensor Officer Milo, a furry creature whose Dentaldia's species had evolved from something resembling anxious hamsters. I'm detecting unusual activity from the planet's surface. They appear to be tracking us? Vrax Till snorted. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. They're probably tracking one of their own quaint satellites. Sir, they're sending a transmission directly to us. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a human female with short red hair and a disarmingly casual posture. "Hello, Council Vessel Discreet Observer," she said cheerfully. "This is Commander Tess Riley of Earth's Interstellar Affairs Office. We've been expecting you. Your cloaking technology has a distinct quantum fluctuation pattern at 4.3 gigahertz. We've been tracking you since you entered the solar system. Would you like to dock and have some coffee? We make excellent coffee." The bridge fell silent. Vrax Till's mandibles clicked in shock. This is a fluke," he stammered. "They can't possibly." "Oh, and Admiral Vrax Till," continued Commander Riley, reading from a tablet, "the Council's diplomatic gala has been postponed. Something about a quantum banana taxation dispute. Anyway, we've prepared a welcoming committee if you'd like to come down. No specimen collection necessary. We're happy to provide voluntary DNA samples if you just ask nicely." Vrax Till's exoskeleton paled to a sickly beige. "How do they know about the gala? How do they know my name?" "Sir," whispered Milo, "they've just transmitted the complete schematics of our ship, including several design improvements for our propulsion system." As a gesture of goodwill, Riley added, "Your antimatter containment could use a minor adjustment. Nothing serious, just a 0.02% efficiency increase. Oh, and we're sending up some cookies. Chocolate chip. They're universally popular." 20 minutes later, a small Earth shuttle docked with the Discreet Observer, delivering both cookies and existential dread to the Council vessel's crew. The cookies were indeed excellent. The existential dread was even more potent, especially when Commander Riley casually mentioned Earth's extensive knowledge of 17 Council species, including 3 the Council itself hadn't officially met yet. Back in the Council chamber, Vrax Till's report was met with disbelief and accusations of incompetence. "You expect us to believe," sputtered High Chancellor Zorn, "that this primitive species not only detected our most advanced stealth vessel but offered you baked goods and engineering advice?" "The cookies were quite good, sir," offered Plex helpfully, having sampled one himself during the debriefing. "This is outrageous," bellowed Ambassador Krell. "Either Vrax Till is incompetent, or these humans are far more advanced than we realized. Neither option is acceptable." "There's a third possibility," said Vrax Till quietly. "They might have helped." The Council chamber erupted into speculative chaos, completely missing the blinking alert on Plex's terminal. Long-range sensors had just detected the first signature of something far more concerning than humans with cookies. "Dark matter energy signatures detected in the Kylon sector," reported Plex, his tail swishing with concern. "The pattern matches historical readings from the Dark Matter Empire's vessels." The Council chamber fell silent. The Dark Matter Empire, a mysterious, rarely seen civilization that had remained isolated for millennia, was the bogeyman of galactic politics. "Impossible," declared High Chancellor Zorn, though his eye stalks quivered nervously. "The Empire hasn't engaged with outside species in over 3,000 years. "The readings are confirmed, sir," insisted Plex. "And there's more. Earth has sent us a communication package about these readings. They've apparently been tracking dark matter signatures for decades." Ambassador Krell's plumage ruffled indignantly. "Preposterous. These primitive monkeys cannot possibly track what our most advanced sensors can barely detect." The holographic display activated, showing Commander Riley again, this time accompanied by a tall, lanky human male with wild gray hair and thick-rimmed glasses. "Greetings, Council," said Riley. "This is Dr. Marcus Flynn, our leading expert on dark matter physics. We've detected the Empire's fleet mobilization and believe you may be in danger." Dr. Flynn cleared his throat. "Our data indicates the Dark Matter Empire has been preparing for expansion for some time. We've recorded 17 incursions into neighboring systems over the past 30 Earth years, all exhibiting the same energy signature pattern we're detecting now, but at a much larger scale. High Chancellor Zorn's eye stalks narrowed. And how exactly would a species that hasn't left its own star system have this information? Dr. Flynn and Commander Riley exchanged glances. Let's just say we have our methods, Riley replied diplomatically. The important thing is that these readings suggest a full-scale invasion. The Empire's warships have a distinct vulnerability in their port nacelles where the dark matter containment field is thinnest. We've prepared a comprehensive defense strategy. Enough, interrupted Ambassador Krell. This is clearly an attempt by a primitive species to seem important. Next, they'll claim they've solved the Fermi paradox and know the location of the lost fleet of Andromeda. Actually, about the lost fleet began Dr. Flynn before Riley elbowed him. We're simply offering assistance, said Riley. The Empire's warships will be at your central systems within 72 hours. We've transmitted the defensive specifications to Junior Science Officer Plex. Please consider them. After the transmission ended, the Council erupted into argument. This is absurd, insisted Representative Dorn. These humans are clearly trying to manipulate us for their own benefit. What benefit? Asked Plex quietly. They're offering help against a legitimate threat. Perhaps the threat isn't legitimate, suggested Ambassador Krell. Perhaps there is no dark matter Empire fleet, and this is some elaborate human ruse. To what end? Asked Plex, exasperated. Who knows how primitive minds work? Sneered Krell. Perhaps they find it amusing. In the end, the Council voted 161 to ignore the human intelligence. Only Plex voted to investigate further, which earned him a disciplinary note in his personnel file. The Council then spent the next 71 hours debating a resolution to formally condemn the humans for their presumptuous behavior. They were still arguing about the wording when the first dark matter warship tore through the fabric of space directly above the Council homeworld. The sky split open like a cosmic zipper giving way, revealing a darkness so profound it seemed to absorb not just light but hope itself. From this void emerged ships of impossible configuration, geometric nightmares that hurt the eyes to look upon directly. What in the 16 hells is that? Screamed Ambassador Krell as the Council chamber's emergency sirens blared. The main display showed dozens of dark matter warships materializing across Council space, their hulls rippling with energy that shouldn't exist in normal space-time. It appears, said Plex with remarkable calm, to be the dark matter Empire invasion fleet that the humans warned us about. High Chancellor Zorn's gelatinous body had turned a sickly translucent gray. Activate our defense grid. All available vessels to combat stations. Our defense grid is designed for conventional threats, sir, Plex reminded him. The dark matter ships are phasing through our shields as if they weren't there. On the display, Council defensive satellites exploded in silent bursts of light as the dark matter vessels casually obliterated them. The Council's pride and joy, the 5th Defensive Fleet, moved to intercept and was reduced to cosmic dust in under 6 minutes. Emergency transmission from all Council worlds, reported the communications officer, a normally stoic insectoid whose antennae were now trembling uncontrollably. Dark matter ships are appearing everywhere. Our defenses are useless. This is impossible, whispered Ambassador Krell, his plumage molting in terror. We are the dominant force in this galaxy. We have stood for 10,000 years. 9,872 years, actually, corrected Plex automatically, then winced at his timing. The chamber shook as something massive detonated nearby. Dust rained from the ornate ceiling. We need to evacuate, declared Representative Dorn, already backing toward the exit. The Council must survive to coordinate a counterattack. Counterattack with what? Asked Plex. Our best weapons are ineffective, and we have no understanding of their technology. The humans, whispered Zorn suddenly. The humans said they had defensive specifications, which we ignored, Plex reminded him. "Well, you ignore them," shouted Krell, dignity forgotten. "Contact Earth immediately." The communications officer tapped frantically at his console. Earth is not responding on standard frequencies." "Try all frequencies," ordered Zorn. "Wait," said Plex, checking his personal terminal. "I'm receiving something. It's a text-only message from Earth." "What does it say?" demanded Zorn, his eye stalks quivering. Plex read aloud, "Do you accept our cookies now?" "It appears to be a pun, sir. Their baked goods and their digital permission tracking systems share the same name." Another explosion rocked the chamber, closer this time. "Tell them yes to the cookies," shouted Ambassador Krell, his plumage now almost completely fallen out. "I've sent confirmation," said Plex. "They're responding, they say, sit tight. Help is coming. You might want to duck." "Duck? What is duck?" asked Representative Dorn in confusion. At that moment a new alert sounded. Plex checked his terminal and his eyes widened. Energy signatures detected approaching from the direction of Earth's solar system. They're moving at speeds we thought were theoretically impossible. On the main display, new ships appeared sleek, gunmetal gray vessels with blue propulsion signatures that seemed to bend the very space around them. They moved with impossible agility, dancing between the dark matter warships like predators that had found their natural prey. "Those are human ships?" gasped Zorn. "How? They weren't supposed to have interstellar capabilities." "Sir," said Plex, watching the display with something approaching awe, "I think we may have drastically underestimated our neighbors." The evacuation shuttle carrying the surviving council members shuddered as it narrowly avoided debris from what had once been the majestic council spire, the supposed eternal bit symbol of galactic unity, now reduced to floating architectural concepts. "This is humiliating," muttered Ambassador Krell, crammed between Representative Dorn's sharp exoskeleton and High Chancellor Zorn's gelatinous form, which was stress oozing all over the shuttle's upholstery. The supreme governing body of the galaxy, fleeing like startled Kornaks. "Would you prefer to stay and explain galactic etiquette to the Dark Matter Empire?" asked Plex, who was piloting the shuttle with surprising skill. "I understand their concept of diplomacy involves molecular disassembly." "Where exactly are we going?" demanded Zorn, several of his eye stalks swiveling accusingly toward Plex. "Earth," replied Plex simply. "It's the only logical destination. The humans are the only ones who seem to have effective countermeasures against the dark matter ships." "Absolutely not," sputtered Krell. "I refuse to beg for asylum from primitives who were flinging their own excrement at each other just a few millennia ago." A nearby explosion sent the shuttle spinning. Plex corrected their course and accelerated. "Your objection is noted, Ambassador," said Plex calmly. "However, I should point out that Council Protocol 773B clearly states that during a Class Omega emergency, the preservation of Council leadership supersedes all diplomatic considerations." "He's right," admitted Representative Dorn grudgingly. "And it is technically a Class Omega emergency." "What's a Class Omega emergency?" asked Zorn nervously. "Total civilizational collapse, sir," replied Plex. "I'm surprised you don't remember. You signed the protocol." 3 harrowing days later, the battered Council shuttle limped into Earth orbit. They were immediately hailed by a cheerful human traffic controller who directed them to parking spot C7 as if they were arriving for a routine business meeting rather than fleeing the apocalypse. Upon landing at what appeared to be a hastily converted agricultural facility, they were greeted by Commander Riley and Dr. Flynn, both looking irritatingly calm. "Welcome to Earth," said Riley, offering a slight bow. "We've prepared accommodations for you. I apologize for the rustic setting, but our main diplomatic facilities are currently being used as staging areas for our defense fleet." "Your defense fleet," repeated Zorn numbly. The one that shouldn't exist because your species supposedly hasn't mastered faster than light travel. About that, said Dr. Flynn, adjusting his glasses. We may have understated our capabilities somewhat. Understated? Shrieked Krell. You claim to be a pre-FTL civilization. You let us believe you were barely past discovering electricity. We never actually claimed that, Riley pointed out. You assumed it. We just didn't correct you. But why? Asked Plex, genuinely curious rather than outraged. Riley and Flynn exchanged glances. We've been watching the Council for some time, admitted Riley. Your tendency to, shall we say, guide the development of younger species didn't seem compatible with our preferred development path. You mean we would have interfered with your cultural evolution? Translated Plex. That's a diplomatic way of putting it, agreed Flynn. Your standard protocols would have classified several of our core social structures as destabilizing influences to be corrected. Zorn's gelatinous form quivered with indignation. Those protocols exist for the greater harmony of the galaxy. Your version of harmony, noted Riley. Now, about the dark matter empire. We've been monitoring them for centuries. They exist in a dimensional state slightly offset from normal space, which is why your sensors have such difficulty detecting them. And you can fight them? Asked Dorn skeptically. Oh yes, said Flynn with a smile that could only be described as unsettling. In fact, we've been preparing for this exact scenario since we first detected their probe ships in our solar system about 300 years ago. 300 years? Gasped Plex. That's before your industrial revolution. Our public industrial revolution, corrected Flynn. Let's just say that certain aspects of our technological development have been kept, compartmentalized. But why? Asked Zorn. Why hide your capabilities? Riley smiled. Chancellor, in our brief interactions with the Council, how many times did someone refer to humans as primitive monkeys? The Council members shifted uncomfortably. We found, continued Riley, that being underestimated can be a strategic advantage. Now, would you like to see our dark matter countermeasures? The observation deck of Earth's primary defense station provided a spectacular view of the battle. The Council members watched in stunned silence as human vessels darted between the dark matter warships, firing weapons that somehow connected with the phase-shifted enemy ships. I don't understand, muttered Ambassador Krell. How are your weapons even affecting them? They exist partially in another dimensional plane. Coffee, said Dr. Flynn, sipping from a mug labeled dark matter, dark roast. Excuse me? Zorn's eye stalks squinted in confusion. Coffee, repeated Flynn. Or more specifically, the unique molecular structure of caffeine when bombarded with specific quantum frequencies creates a temporary dimensional anchor point that forces dark matter objects to fully materialize in our reality. Can't shoot what you can't hit, but once they're anchored. You're saying, interrupted Dorn incredulously, that you're defeating the most feared force in the galaxy with coffee? Weaponized coffee delivery systems, corrected Flynn. The caffeine is merely the active ingredient. The delivery system is actually quite sophisticated. On the display, human ships launched what looked like oversized espresso machines toward the dark matter vessels. Upon impact, they exploded into clouds of aerosolized caffeine particles that caused the enemy ships to flicker and solidify, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. This is absurd, whispered Krell, watching as another dark matter warship exploded in a burst of light. But effective, noted Plex. I'm curious, Dr. Flynn, how did you discover this particular vulnerability? Flynn scratched his head awkwardly. Actually, it was kind of an accident. One of our early dark matter researchers spilled his coffee on a containment field generator. Instead of creating a catastrophic dimensional rift as theory predicted, it stabilized the field. After that, it was just a matter of weaponizing the delivery system. And you kept this discovery secret for centuries? asked Zorn. Well, we weren't sure if we could trust the Council with the information, admitted Commander Riley. Your record suggested you might classify it as a volatile technology to be managed by Council oversight. Which means, translated Flynn, you would have taken it for yourselves and left us defenseless. None of the Council members could argue with this assessment. And now, asked Plex, what happens after you defeat the Dark Matter Empire? Riley smiled. Now we officially introduce ourselves to the galactic community. As equals, not as primitives to be guided. The Council will never accept this, warned Krell. The Council, Riley pointed out gently, currently exists because we're allowing it to. I think new arrangements can be negotiated. On the main display, the last dark matter warship attempting to attack Earth disintegrated under a barrage of caffeine bombs and conventional fire. Cheers erupted from the human operators throughout the command center. I still don't understand, said Zorn, his voice small and confused. Why did you help us after we dismissed you? After we insulted you? Because that's what humans do, said Riley with a shrug. We're kind of stubborn that way. Even when people are jerks to us, we generally try to do the right thing. Also, added Flynn with a grin, we really wanted to see your faces when you realized coffee saved the galaxy. 3 weeks later, as the Council was formally reorganized into the Galactic Cooperative, with Earth as a founding member, the junior science officer Plex, now senior advisor Plex, found himself sitting across from Commander Riley in Earth's newly established diplomatic headquarters. There's still one thing that bothers me, said Plex. Your people knew about the Dark Matter Empire for centuries. You had countermeasures ready. You monitored Council activities without our knowledge. It almost feels like we've been the advanced species all along? Riley finished for him. Playing a very long game? Exactly, said Plex. The question is, why? Riley smiled and sipped her coffee. Let's just say that humanity has learned that sometimes the best place to hide is in plain sight, pretending to be less than you are. The Dark Matter Empire wasn't the only potential threat we've been watching. And now? Asked Plex. Now we stop pretending, said Riley. Which is honestly a relief. Do you know how hard it's been to keep our interstellar coffee shop franchise a secret? We've had locations in 7 different star systems for decades. Plex blinked. You're joking. Maybe, said Riley with a wink. But I wouldn't dismiss it completely. After all, we primitive monkeys do make excellent coffee.